talk to us. You don't need to look at the camera at all if you want to.
Go.
Fantastic.
All right, so it's going live there. We're about to see the custom RTMP. Come on up here on Switcher.
And there's no do-overs. This is live, so don't mess up.
There's absolutely no do-overs
pressure.
when you are live. And it looks like we're coming online here with Restream. That's great. And we are. What's up, everybody? We are hanging out here from the Create Wow Summit. Jason told me I can't call it the Social Wow Summit anymore because I get in trouble for that. But we're here at the Create Wow put on by SocialSurvey, and we have some very special guests here. And I'm going to have Jason introduce our first guest because it's his mom. So I don't know if we can actually. I'm going to say it. It's his mom. So I'm going to have you introduce your mom because that's kind of
Mommy.
It's not very often you get to introduce mommy on the show.
That's true.
So I'm going to go ahead and turn off our. Oh, sorry, we still had our banner on. So I'm going to have you introduce mommy here and mommy. Mommy Mason Mack? Mommy Mason Mack?
Mommy Mason Mack. Yeah.
That's a good name.
All right, so I'm going to jump
Phil,
in
you're
here
going to run with that one.
Josh was quickly going down a bad path on that
We're
one.
going somewhere we
I'm
should
go
be.
ahead and step in, and I don't want to get blamed that I would want Josh to pronounce the events that we're at correctly. So yes, it's not Social Wow, it's Create Wow for SocialSurvey. We are here, we're having a great time. Our first guest is someone that's near and dear to my heart because I literally, when people say I wouldn't be here for that person, like that's literally true.
You wouldn't be here.
I literally would not be here without this next person. But my mom is the president and CEO of Mason McDuffie.
Hello, I'm happy to be here.
All right.
Is this the first time you've been on a podcast?
This is the second time.
Second
Yes,
time.
Jason was the reason I was on the
I just
prior
wanna know,
podcast.
how long have you
so.
been podcasting before you had your mom on the show? I'm
always
going to go ahead and
there.
call you out.
I've never been on one of his
It wasn't even your
podcasts.
show.
It was
No.
different shows.
Now, Jason is, and actually it was you who invited me on this one. So he
still-
has
you
yet
still
to
have it.
invite me on a podcast.
Well, we're excited to have you on it because
Thank you,
I'm going to
Josh.
save Jason here because we're him. Oh, there's all kinds of people hanging out. I can see Andrew Berman hanging out. But I was talking to you over breakfast this morning, and you have been in this industry. I'm not going to age you at all.
Oh,
but
I
you've
don't
been in
mind.
You've been in this
Really.
industry since 1967. Is that right?
1967 is when I started in the mortgage business
Which to
as a
me,
receptionist.
This is crazy. Like because you have seen literally like 40 plus years of this industry, how it's changed, how it's evolved. And
Right.
that's why when we were sitting at breakfast, I'm like, you need to be on the show. Like, I would love to hear your perspective of everything. But before we get into that, most of you guys know Phil Treadwell. We're not going to introduce him because you already know him. But no, of course, we have
Thanks,
the
man.
awesome Phil Treadwell hanging out with us with the Mortgage Marketing Expert podcast. He's been a mentor to me. He's one of the guys that when I first started my show, doing Josh Fitz Live, doing the Shred Show, I looked at him, and I'm very excited to have him on the show with us as well. This won't be the first of many we're doing today with him. But Phil, thanks for joining us as well.
Man, I appreciate to be here with Marilyn. Get to tie in, mortgage family with podcasting. So it's gonna be cool. It's a lot of fun.
It's gonna be. Let's get back. I know because I want to talk about this because this is something. Having the experience that you have you have seen a lot of change.
I
As a
have.
matter of fact, you were telling me. I mean, interest rates back in the early '80s were 17, 18%. We're complaining, and they're like, "Oh, they're high fours right now." And I'm
Right.
like, ladies and gentlemen, they were back in the 18. And so stop your bitching and whining because they're really good right now. Perspective, I get. I mean, I know a lot. What's the 5 years ago, 10 years ago to now?
Change really consistently throughout is how we communicate.
Oh, interesting.
And when I was doing loans back in the 70s and even the 80s, almost always face to face. That's, somebody would come in. We used to have little play areas for the children of the borrowers who would, absolutely, because we needed to keep them busy while mom and dad was sitting there doing the application. And sometimes you could do it on the phone, but on the applications, there wasn't even something for an internet application because there was no internet. And so it was just more personal. And so it was a little bit easier, I think, to engage and to build that sitting across from you.
Sure.
Versus somebody that's online or texting. But that's how we need to learn to do it today. And it definitely is more efficient. But I believe believe that you have to take better care that you're personable to the other person, and so that they get to see you as that.
So, I mean, that being, you think, because there's a lot of talk of iBuyers and communication is key within this industry. Do you ever think the industry will get to a point where transactions are done completely online, or is that human interaction, is it truly necessary?
No, I believe that we will get to where the transactions are all feel that human connection.
Absolutely.
It's a huge investment, and there are so many different programs today than when I first started. You could have FHA or you could have VA.
Yep.
From a mortgage company. If you wanted a conventional, you would go to a savings and loan or a bank.
Yep.
And so, but now there's just so many different products. And so I think we become more of a consultant as far as a financial consultant, and really digging into what type of program really is best for them.
Yep.
So I still think you have to have that, but I do believe, in fact, right now, for take a loan online. Day one certainty, as an example, you can verify their income, you can verify their assets online, and you can also get the value of your property online. I mean, hybrid closing, really the only thing is the note and deed, that where you actually have to sit at a table and sign. All of the rest of it's online. So I believe that's where we're going, and I do believe that that's more efficient for all of us. You still, again, need to have that.
That's and I think so too. I think we, as technology comes, and fintech especially has a bigger and bigger place in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
I think the transaction, I mean, it's almost completely automated at this point. We're seeing a lot of hybrids come out, but I think that communication, that personal connection, will always have to be there. Mm-hmm. I think there's companies already trying to remove that out of it. I just think, like you mentioned, it's one of the biggest financial decisions somebody's ever going to make in their life. And we talk about this time and time again, but you're going to be the position of the LO and even the real estate agent is going to be more of an advisor, really being able to go over their options, really what's important to them. So I couldn't agree with you more on this. This is something too, Phil, we're going to get to you. I promise we're not just going to leave you sitting.
I'm learning. I love it.
But I love your perspective because I think this is crucial to me. And I don't know any other way to say it. It's going to come off a little bit offensive, but not. You've gone from, you've seen the industry where things like this, podcasts, and I mean, I want to say experienced in the industry, but you see the value of using social platforms, of doing things like this. I mean, that's what Phil, a lot of what he's helping Mason Mac with are things like this. How and why is technology and podcasting building a brand using social media for somebody like yourself, who is more experienced? Why do you think that's such an important piece of what we do?
Because that is part of the new communication. That is how we're communicating. We're right now communicating to an audience, people that we can't even see, but they're getting to know us. They're getting to know what we think. They're learning from, questions that we're asking and answering. So it is the way today that you do have that human connection. You don't have to be sitting, like we are.
Right.
So any business today, they need to be aware of the podcasts, the videos, the Instagrams, the face, all of the new technology today. If they want to connect,
educated her. She almost had every single one of those.
She educated him.
Down.
You see, we have it mixed up
here. She rattled those off. I think the only one she missed is Snapchat. But
well, I tend to give her a lot of credit, and for all being serious, is I give her a lot of credit for how I've done in business and how I've looked at things, and she's definitely been my mentor when it comes to that. But when it comes to marketing and social media, I think she'll tell you that.
Yes.
And this is something we talked about earlier, is that when we have conversations, Josh and I have conversations with other lenders and other loan officers and stuff like that have been in the business for 20 plus years, they generally don't get it, or they understand it, but they haven't committed to actually changing and whatnot. Right. And so if anything, with what Marilyn just said about being in this industry since 1967 is that she's one of the few mortgage CEOs out there that get it, and she'll tell you herself, when I first came on board and was talking about a lot of stuff, her and the rest of the executive committee didn't fully get on board. They fully didn't understand that and stuff like that. But they've realized that you do need to do that, and they have been doing that. And obviously, with bringing Phil aboard, they understand how important that is.
Absolutely. And I
That was
I don't know if that was a segue or not.
That was kind of a
That was an amazing segue. I appreciate that. I just completely fumbled the ball right there.
You have a
No, everything you guys are saying is so true. Business is and always will be about relationships. And I think when we talk about all the technological changes that have happened within the mortgage origination, mortgage servicing side, that's to create efficiencies so we can all get back to the people side of the business. When we're talking about social media, we're talking about podcasting, we're talking about all of these other platforms, all that is to plant a seed with someone and be able to create a new relationship that you can go in person later. I mean, you guys are two of my best friends, and we only see each other, a couple of times a year in person, but we communicate almost every single day through apps, through technology and things of that nature. And I think that that's what's so important for people to realize is when we're talking about human behavior, when we're talking about the market right now, which is half of the mortgages out there that are being originated or for millennials, they still want to have an efficient process. They want to use technology. 100%. They want to find out about brands and become super fans, as Brittany Hodak just talked about on stage. They want to be able to buy into that. But it is as Marilyn said, they still want to have a human person walking them through that process. While the process of a mortgage will be completely automated, you can never completely take the human element out of that mortgage process. And so when we talk about these fintech companies, like Josh mentioned, they're only going to have a certain amount of success because you can't replace an experienced mortgage advisor, an experienced mortgage originator guiding someone through that process, which is most people's largest investment, their largest asset, the largest debt that they will ever acquire.
Yep. No, and I think that's what's really cool is that we keep talking about these same things, and even hearing it from your perspective that you've seen so much of it over the years. Like, this all comes together in this one round. I don't know how better way to explain it, but it all comes together in a place where you have somebody who's been in the industry for so long. They understand the value of doing things like this, but no matter how much technology, how much podcasting, building a brand, that human connection will always be. And that's what we do. Like, as podcasters and as influencers, if you will, that's what we're trying to do, is build that that human trust. That's what having a brand, doing a podcast, having a show, whatever you're doing, that's the way we connect with humans. Humans still, that's one way that we're able to do this. So I think it's fun. And I think it's really fun that we are able to, like you said, Phil, we don't see each other on a regular basis, but we still consider each other really good friends. That's how we build relationships. Absolutely. So people that don't see, and even Marilyn, you're a perfect example. You're an executive that sees the value in this. We have executives on a regular basis tell us, like, oh, well, what's the ROI on this? And I'm just like, if that's the way you're looking at it, like, that, it cannot be looked at in that way. Building relationships, doing something like this takes time.
Right.
So you have to be patient with it. But the fact that you even recognize it, it gives me hope, to be honest. The fact that we're sitting here and I'm just like, she gets it. There are people, there are executives in this industry who have been in it, doing it a long time, that they get it. So,
and I want to speak to that for just a second, because, for the last 15 years, I've been an originator, a manager, a regional within mortgage companies. And I think Marilyn is the exception, and it's happening more often, but she understands, the evolution, not only of the mortgage business, but of how we communicate. She's been in the business and has seen cycles. And I think too many people forget that just like the mortgage business is evolving and the way we communicate is evolving, you have to tie those two things together. And it is a slow process, but it is actually happening. But I think there's so many leaders within the mortgage industry that, because they've been doing it one way for 20 or 30 years, they've become a little bit romantic about it. And we all talk about this all the time. That you have to understand where things are going, where they want to be, and whether it's for financial reasons, like you talked about ROI, or if it's just they're stuck in a certain rut. But if you look at Mason McDuffie specifically, the brand goes back into the late 1800s on to now. The way Mason McDuffie as a real estate and mortgage company has evolved, it just goes to show that that's exactly what we're doing right now. We're trying to be forward thinking about where is the modern consumer going, where's the modern realtor and referral partner going, and how can we be there to not only create relationships but capture that business.
And I think that's the biggest kudos to you, Marilyn. Like, one of the executives and actually understanding the trends and not being one who is set in their ways. Because to be honest, like I said, we still see these executives who think they know so much better than everybody else. But you are willing to, I mean, look, to not only your son, but guys who are a little bit younger of the younger generations are like, hey, you know what? These guys do know something. They know something different than I know. Like you mentioned, Jason, you learned a lot from your mom, but she's also learned a lot from you. And I think that's as we continue to really push that mindset within the industry, hopefully we have more doctors like yourself, because it truly kudos to you, to everything that you have done and helped build Mason McDuffie, and really, bringing on guys like Phil to really trust him with the next generation coming in. So it's exciting.
That's our legacy. People from my generation. It is bringing on the younger generation and listening to them and understanding that their way is going to be different. The future is going to be different. Just like when I was your age, my future was different than what the prior generations. And so that's what we need to thrive and survive in the future, but also to be able to lend money for people of the next generation who want to buy homes their way. Because that's the only way you're going to be able to do it.
And that's built into the story. If you hear the Mason Mac story, which is so cool that I've got to hear from Marilyn several times, they were a group of like-minded people that, as they took leadership roles within the company, turned around and said, okay, here's the trends of what's happening. Here's what's going on in the market. We're a like-minded group. Let's move this company forward together. And so that's what worked for them. And now that things are changing again, they're like, hey, let's get another like-minded group of people together and usher into this next generation. And that's so cool. And that's what really attracted me to the company and to Maryland, is it's people that understand the fundamentals of the mortgage business, about how to do it right, but also understanding where it's going.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest problems in the industry, at least that I've experienced since I've been in it since 2009, was really the fact of executives or people, veterans in the industry, and it's not always executive, it's loan officers too, but separating mortgage business from what consumerism is, right? And so it's like, well, the mortgage business is the mortgage business. True. I'm not telling you how to structure loans. I'm not telling you how to explain FHA or V. I'm telling you how to grab attention of the consumer, because it doesn't matter if you're the best loan officer ever, if you have if Mason McDuffie has the best rates, best service, none of that matters at all if the consumers can't find you, if they don't know about you, if you're not top of mind. So that's one thing that's been a battle, but I see that finally shifting now. But what I think we can't get lazy about, or at least complacent about, is now that a lot of companies are talking about social media and marketing and having that digital ecosystem, and the whole thing is understanding like these are conversations that should have had years ago. And so everyone's just playing catch up. So we can't be continuing as an industry to skating to where the puck is, but where it's going to be. And we're always years behind basically every other vertical out there when it comes to that. And it's just what it is. But when we have leaders like Marilyn and Phil and other mortgage companies that actually do get it and deciding like we want to go out there, we don't know what the ROI is, but it seems like the right thing to do. And I think if we look across history with other businesses and realizing if we take that timeline back, when they decided to do what they didn't have an ROI really, but they knew that it seemed like the right thing to do. That's paying dividends now. Right. And so we need to learn from that, as opposed to I need ROI now, as opposed to long-term longevity. And you mentioned legacy. And so that's what I'm speaking to.
Doing the right thing for your customers and your employees, and doing the right thing in general, will always have a positive ROI. Yep, people that are looking for that ROI on the front end, that's what investing is all about. You're investing in something that you don't necessarily see returns on, but doing the right thing always end up positive.
Yep. Right. I'm sure you've seen that mentality within your practice, everything that you've done. So kudos to you, to all of Mason Mac. It's so cool to see what you guys are doing. And because of the mindset, and you see the vision, the future, the legacy that you're building, that's why Mason Mac, in my opinion, is going to be a company that continues to dominate, continues to grow into the future. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Phil, thanks for always hanging out with us, man. It's always fun having one of our syndicate brothers hanging out. And like I said, I'm sure we're going to have a few more opportunities to sit down while you're here.
For sure.
And some of our travel schedule coming up. So
absolutely.
I know we had a few events coming up as well. But anything else you want to touch on?
No, I think, I think one of the things that's special about this is how we always talk about it's a small community, it's a small business, and so always doing right. Because look, if you're a company, and the reason I'm bringing this up, one is just because of all the connections, it's friends, it's family, the whole thing. And because I mention this all the time on podcasts and shows and when I'm speaking, when I say like this is a legacy for me, I was born into this industry. It's not just for myself and trying to do the best that I can. I'm just going to be driven that way anyway. But it's also for the path that my mom has paved, especially as a woman, and becoming one of the first female executives of a mortgage company, or president, CEO of a mortgage company back when it was an old boys club, and we still have a lot of that going on in the industry now. But with this industry, when you have families and it goes across generations, and there is that legacy, and then you have extended families with friends and networks and whatnot, and then you bring them together. That's what's special about this industry. I think it's that culture and that mentality that's going to end up winning out, because that's a story
100%.
that consumers are going to want to hear. And that is going to mean something to them emotionally.
Absolutely.
Totally agree.
Absolutely.
Very well said. That's where he gets the wisdom from you. That's where it comes in.
I don't deny that. I will never deny that.
Well, again, it's so great having you guys on the show. It was an
Thank you,
honor and a
Josh.
privilege to have you.
Well, thank you for the invite.
Oh my! just to make
Great.
sure we're clear, I invited her on the show. Jason was like,
Yeah, with,
I'll go ahead and
with friends like Josh and Phil who need.
I was going to say, Licken invited her on. You invited her on.
yeah,
I'll go ahead and
yes.
get her on my
There
podcast
you
show.
go.
That way, Jason's still
Well, I didn't
behind.
mention
you.
Andrew
Step
Berman,
up.
and he's actually just right. You guys can't see him, but he's on the other side. But Andrew Berman has invited me and my mom. So now everyone that's
Except for you.
podcasting in the industry, except for me, has
there you
invited.
go. Maybe you
invited
should
my mom
step
on, so
up and
that's
have
awesome.
your mom
So
be
Thanksgiving's
proud
gonna
of
be
that.
especially fun this-
I'd say
Yes.
that's gonna be a good one. So, but hey, again, thank you guys and Mason McDuffie for all you guys
Thank
are
you.
doing. Big shout out to Social Survey, and you actually can't see Scott Harris, the CEO's been in the background here. Big shout out to them. Grateful for the opportunity we have to be here at Create Wow, and again, great event. Looking forward to some great podcasts and some great shows coming up. But again, thanks so much, guys. We're off. We're gonna go grab some lunch, and we'll catch you guys here in a little while. You gotta show up. You gotta hustle.
Repeat every day.
See you guys. See you soon.
Amen.